best. May it never change.
And may it never change us.
Nostalgia. We all feel it and we all want to experience it over and over again, not necessarily through past moments but during the present. We want that feeling anytime we experience something new, something that feels significant like it's a one-off, but we just can't, right? Is that ever possible? Why do moments like the Assassin's Creed 2 intro connect so many of us? And it doesn't need to be that moment, it could be buying your first car or booting up your first games console, among many other possibilities. Nostalgia is so important, and yet specifically in gaming we lose it as we grow. Those fleeting moments left ingrained in our memories, constantly reminding us it will never be the same. But can we unlock those feelings again through gaming? We see moments of it, like everyone collectively praising Red Dead Redemption 2's story and bringing us all together, well, most of us, and yet it still doesn't feel the same. I think it's important to explore that idea of nostalgia to see if there may be a reason for this and if it's possible to perhaps unlock that feeling once again. I chose to open on the Assassin's Creed 2 intro as I think many of us did experience that butterfly feeling when we first played it, but it may be easier for you to understand if you think of a similar moment that left you with that butterfly feeling in your stomach, and I also think it's perfect to explore why this effect doesn't hit as hard as it used to, and why is that? Well, a game called Assassin's Creed 3 came out, and while it was praised for trying something different on a new engine, it didn't leave that same effect Assassin's Creed 2 did, and today I'm going to explore why. Both Assassin's Creed 2 and 3's intros or title drops are fundamentally the same. You climb to a high point overlooking the world that you're now inhabiting, the score that's blasting, and the title drops. Yet I'm willing to bet that anyone that experienced that Assassin's Creed 3 intro felt sort of numb, like it wasn't what you really wanted from that title drop. I remember the first time I experienced that Assassin's Creed 2 title drop, I was already blown away by how new Assassin's Creed 2 felt compared to the original. Slowly making my way to the top of a building, hearing that theme slowly rise and then the title drops. Nothing like it has come close to giving me those same butterflies from this franchise, and every time I play it and re-experience it, I just feel the same way. So why do these title drops that are basically the same have such a difference in impact? Well, it's not just because one game is in general better than the other, but the way it's set up through music, character, world building, and most importantly, feeling. We latch onto those feelings, especially that butterfly feeling I mentioned, and that feeling is created through a variety of factors, like age and the overall quality of the experience. Let's start with Assassin's Creed 3. We're introduced to this character called Haytham, who was not advertised to be the main character. We know a little about him after about 40 minutes or so, and the title drops. No real build-up, a lack of understanding of the world we are now in due to it being constricted to a ship, and the lack of recognisable music swelling causes this to not have an effect really if you've played Assassin's Creed 2. Now let's go to Assassin's Creed 2. We're introduced to Ezio Auditore, our main character, thrown into the world of Florence, learning that Ezio is young and rash and cares for his family. We explore a tiny bit of Florence and climb up to the top of the structure, the music swells, we get two iconic lines, and the title drops with a clear view of who and where we will be exploring. You tell me which one sounds more impactful. Assassin's Creed 3 is familiar but different, whereas Assassin's Creed 2 at the time of its release just felt new. There was no desperation to be different, but just naturally was different. So the difference is there despite being fundamentally the same, and you may prefer 3 over 2, and if you do, let me know down below, but I think people that experience 2 first kind of understand what I'm saying. Assassin's Creed 3 tried to capitalize on your love for Assassin's Creed 2 without being Assassin's Creed 2, which is why the Brotherhood intro works as well. It's so similar to Assassin's Creed 2, the same music is used, the same setup, the same camera work, which is why it's just as memorable as Assassin's Creed 2. It's the exact same, and deep down, I think that's what we all want. We want the same feelings, but through different means, and that's the power of nostalgia, to make everything you experience that feels similar, like the intro to Assassin's Creed 3 compared to AC2, worse. I do think it's important to understand why nostalgia impacts us like this, as it can turn one of your favourite hobbies, like gaming, into something you despise or wish was better. Trust me, I've been there. We see all the time the TikToks that take us back to 2012 with Black Ops 2, or further back to the days of PlayStation 2 and the N64. Gaming is surrounded by this nostalgia feeling, and in a lot of ways it ruins what we experience today. So how do we get rid of that feeling that's always watching, waiting to try and ruin your experiences in the present? Well, I'm not going to sit here and give you a definitive answer because there just isn't one. You're very different to me, different experiences, age, life choices, it all factors into it, at least that's what I think. If you didn't experience that Assassin's Creed 2 intro and went straight to AC3, that nostalgia effect probably hits just as hard if you loved that game. To nail my point, I have one last game to mention, Assassin's Creed Revelations. The final entry in the Ezio trilogy, which was both familiar and new, and seems to be my personal exception to this rule of nostalgia. For me, it's on par with Assassin's Creed 2 in the nostalgia sense. The soundtrack was completely different from Assassin's Creed 2, and yet it left me with those same butterfly feelings because, as I mentioned, it just felt new and different. But it's the conclusion to the Ezio trilogy and those stories, a solid beginning, middle, and end, which is exactly why it's the exception, because it's still familiar, you still get the same feeling because it's the same story. And this is where I want to leave this video, it's quite short. Nostalgia will always be there, watching your every move until you let go of it. It sounds cliche, but I think deep down, as I mentioned, we all want the same feeling from games that are just different, especially so within sequels to a franchise you fell in love with, like Assassin's Creed. That power nostalgia has on you is more than likely ruining your current experiences. Look at Elden Ring, something so different and new is probably going to become someone's nostalgia effect. Nothing will ever come close to it for many people out there. Revelations gave me a close to this nostalgia effect. I will always love those Ezio games more than any other Assassin's Creed sequel, but it's not because of nostalgia. I've replayed them countless times, it's the lack of nostalgia. I just think they're better games. If you're feeling like there is nothing left to play, nothing to do, you're not enjoying playing games anymore, and just want the good old days back, I've been there. And it even made me quit gaming for a bit because that nostalgia feeling is just so overpowering. So effective at pestering you anytime you try something that feels similar but is supposed to be new. I think it's just about letting go. Maybe replay some of those old games and potentially realize maybe those new games aren't as bad or time wasting as you think. Because deep down, and this is just my perspective, I just think we want to be kids again. And maybe the way to do that is to let go of some of those childhood games and replace them with some new ones. With an open mind, without the expectations of the past. Then again, I could be completely wrong, but that's just me. I could go deeper, but I suck at making super long videos. I hope you enjoyed. Leave your perspective down below. Oh, and like and subscribe. Thank you.